Let's give her a nice big round of applause. Hola, bom dia, Alegria. Hello, Anna.
Olá, bom dia.
Were you thinking to yourself, oh my God, what have I just walked into here? Or just bonding cafe?
No, it was really nice. I had fun listening. Yeah,
good.
really
Thank
good. Yeah,
How are
happy
you
to be
today?
here.
Tudo bem?
I'm fine. Everything okay? Yeah,
Anna,
happy to be here.
James, me, Anna. Anne in
Hi,
Belgium.
James.
Hola, Anna.
And Anna here in Portugal. You're here to talk with us about your Portuguese immersion experience. What a fantastic idea. One of the things that is really impressive about this is you haven't taken any formal Portuguese lessons, and yet you have made yourself quite the Portuguese speaker, from what I can gather. When you and I have, oh, sorry, I'm trying to bring you on twice onto the screen here,
Kick
rather
me
than
out.
get rid of you all together.
Yeah.
There is the Portuguese immersion experience there. I'm very impressed when I hear you at the Silver Coast meetup in San Martino de Porto. Your engagement with the locals. You are quite the linguist, but how can it be that you could ease yourself into the culture, especially linguistically, without going for formal language training? This is going to be music to some people's ears. How do you do it?
Yeah. Well, the answer is quite simple, really. I just apply what I teach my students. So I'm a language coach in Belgium, mostly for French speakers that need to speak Dutch, because we've got really three languages, official languages in Belgium. So there's sometimes some difficulty, especially professionally, to be able and to dare to speak the other language, because that is also a very big part of it. And so I just apply what I teach my students, and that's it's just based on a very smart professor, much more smart than I am, Stephen Krashen, if you want to look that up.
Okay.
He's American, and he just dedicated his life to looking into how do people learn multiple languages, and what is the best way. And it's really, the basics are really simple. We've all learned language, our own language, our mother tongue, and we've done it in a completely different way than the way that language lessons are offered at schools and other institutions. And that works really well. We didn't have to study for it. We didn't have to learn any vocab lists by heart or study any grammar for it. We just learned it by hearing it. So that's really the basic principle. So what I do is I listen to Portuguese podcasts. I try to put on the radio wherever I am. Whenever I have the chance, I just let Portuguese into my life. I'm following Portuguese influencers on Instagram. I've got YouTubers that I follow. So that's really what I do. And the thing is that the beauty about it is that for most things that are not, well, the most important thing when you learn a language is not the vocab and not the grammar, as we might think it is. It's the rhythm of the language is also very important in Portugal. It's the accent, yeah, the way that people pronounce words, the intonation, etc. And all those things cannot be studied. They need to be heard. And your brain is just fantastic. It just picks up all those clues without you having to work for it. And so in the beginning, you're listening to podcasts and you just don't understand one word of it, but you're just letting it flow in. Don't stress about it, just let it come in. And then I do look up words whenever I, for example, hear that same word coming back 5 or 6 times in the same podcast.
Yes.
That's the one I look up because I really want to know what, this must be an important word. And then I just...
Push.
Yeah, push, for example. So then I can make that link again with other podcasts, etc., etc. And that's how I do it. It's just, and then, of course, there's the fear of speaking. We've all, if you have no experience whatsoever, no basic, of course, it's really good to have some basic vocab, like just ordering a beer and going in and saying hello and goodbye and all those things. And then it's a question of like getting past that fear of trying and seeing where it goes. One big takeaway that that really helped for me, and also to connect with Portuguese people, because they might give the impression of not wanting to speak English, because most of them speak English. It's just they're afraid as you are. They're afraid of coming across as a stupid, because their English is, of course, not as good as yours is.
But
And
it's so
I
much
just,
better than our Portuguese, right?
it's still better than, yeah, indeed. But
Absolutely.
it's the same kind of fear, it's the same kind of inhibition. And what I did, and that's really a takeaway I can recommend to everyone, is in the beginning, I just learned one sentence by heart, and the sentence was very simply, excuse me, my Portuguese is not that good. Can we speak English, please? And just that one sentence, like they all went, okay, we'll try. And then the first reaction is always, my English is not, not very good, but it is, or it's sufficient for what you need them,
I'm so sorry I don't
to
speak
do.
English very well. I wish I could speak it better, but I'll do my
That's
best.
right.
And
It's like,
Yes,
and they say
that's
that
your
in English.
Portuguese person, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's right.
indeed,
Yes,
indeed.
so
So,
true.
but it's just breaking the ice, isn't it? And
Yeah,
it's very important that you do that, because they are offended when you come into a shop or wherever you are and you just start straight away in English. They are offended because they think,
right.
why aren't you trying, and it's just that one little sentence, and it breaks the ice, and it really helps. I don't need it anymore, that sentence. Sometimes I do need to say, listen, I do speak Portuguese, but stop rambling. It's too quick, slow down. So I've learned that now. So I do have that problem now, because they all go, oh, you speak Portuguese, and then they go, oh.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
So that's my problem now, but it's a small problem. But they love it. Just the fact that you've tried and that you've learned that one sentence by heart.
And look at
Yeah.
this. You've only been here a
Thank
few
you.
minutes, and already everything you're saying is 100% right,
It
according
is.
to
Well,
Emily.
it's just my experience, and I've done this. I've taught people this for 20 years almost now.
Yeah.
Um, and I've done this, I've seen it work for others, and I'm really happy that this time I can show my clients that I'm trying it too, and it works for me too. So it's,
It's
yeah,
great.
it really works. And there is a whole set of ideas and tools and things that um, I could help with, if you don't know how and where and when. Um, but that's really the basics. That's, in short, how I do it. I
Yes.
don't take any lessons. I'm not saying that you shouldn't. I'm just saying that you can have lessons for years and still not be able to speak Portuguese.
Well said. Well said. And
Yeah.
this, I
and
really,
I
go on,
just
James.
have to say how validating that is for me personally, because everything you said is more or less the approach I've taken about listening and learning like a child would, reading children's books,
Yeah,
watching children's programs,
absolutely.
listening, trying to repeat all those things. So it's like, yay, all right, I'm on the right track. I'm probably not doing it as intensively as you did, but it's
It
for me
doesn't matter
personally,
that,
I take.
yeah, it's as long as you make progress, as you're making progress. I made it like my mission, of course, as a language coach teacher, with my background. Yeah, I just wanted to be really quick, at picking it up, and I'm really, this is my thing, right? And I'm not going
You're
to live in a
testing.
country.
You're testing your theory, aren't you? Which is great, and
Yeah,
you're
absolutely,
clearly
yeah.
getting good results. Victoria's in.
Yeah.
Victoria Benson, hola, bon dia, kids from a chilly Portimao, and lots of other people as well who've snuck in this morning. Great to see you, Moaz. Good to see you here as well. What I do love about your theory, or the theory of, what was the name of the academic you referred to?
Stephen Krashen. Well, there's many that support his theory, of course, but
Yeah.
he's the most well known, and he's a polyglot himself. And
Okay.
he just, when you listen to um, any person that speaks 4, 5, 6, 20 people that speak 20 languages, so I'm not that special. They all say the same. It's about input. That's all you need. Well, that's the main thing, and that's the main thing that most people don't have.
Yes.
They don't think of, they think of, following lessons. They think of doing, studying grammar, or I don't know, trying to imitate the sounds or whatever, and they just don't think about the input, and it's just how a child learns.
Well, that's
It
it.
takes us, yeah,
That's it,
it
isn't
takes
it?
us 2 years as a kid before we are able to reproduce a language. It takes us about
Exactly.
1 year,
Exactly.
year and a half, yeah,
And the
before we're
kid is
able to,
doing what you describe, as well as
yeah.
watching TV. Their life is like watching TV, isn't it? All of this is
It
going on
is,
around them in what is to become their mother tongue, as you put it. And
absolutely,
they
and
Well,
are
and
it's
they are
the
soaking it up, aren't they? They're soaking it up, and then it's a bit like walking. My eldest, he just got up. He was watching everyone walking, and got up and walked one day.
of course,
And I
yeah,
think that's how it can be with language, right? With kids, it's like
it is.
they just okay. I maybe to get what I want, I need to start doing what this lot are doing and make these same noises and be understood.
Well,
And
that's the,
what a fantastic distinction, right? No, sorry, no,
yeah.
go ahead. You're a
No,
linguist.
no, but that's the other point that I always make, is that the affective filter is so important. Kids, I hear that, so we've all heard that, and maybe you've said it yourself, like, oh yeah, but kids, it's easy for them to learn a language.
Yes, yes,
I'm too old or whatever. Those are all, they're just the sorts, and they are only partly true, because it is true that a kid's brain has more plasticity, etc. It is true. But kids learn differently. They don't study the language. They don't, when they're on the playground, they see an Asian boy or girl, or they see someone from Africa. They don't care. They don't see color. They don't see restrictions. They certainly don't see restrictions for themselves. They go to that girl or boy and they just start playing, and they're having fun, and they're communicating somehow. And we all wonder why and how. And we wonder why our kids, I've got a kid, as you know,
mm,
um, who's in the Portuguese school here since 5 months now, and they all go, "Oh yeah, it must be easy because he's a kid." Yes, but it's because the approach is different. He's on the playground and he's got all those boys and girls around him, and he needs or wants to say something or to have fun or to know what everyone's laughing about. And
yes,
that's the affective filter that you need. You need, like, to want to say that you're hungry as a baby, or to say that you're hurting, or ask for mum's attention or whatever. And all those things we don't use enough when we're learning a language in the classical way.
yes.
So what I, yeah,
We learn to self-judge, don't we?
we do,
What's so wonderful about what you're talking about to me is like I love to understand what's going on behind the scene. What's actually going on here? So what people tend to do is remember being at school rather than
Mm,
being a child, right?
yeah,
And obviously those two things are connected. But when it comes to language, learning your mother tongue wasn't really something you did at school, was it? And it
no, it's
wasn't in an
at
environment
all.
of success
No.
or failure. It
Mm,
was in the world of the effective filter, as you put it,
yeah,
and a gradual iteration and development rather than constantly judging myself. Am I doing this right or wrong?
indeed,
Am I good or bad
indeed.
at this? You just made incremental improvements day by day, didn't you, as a child?
You do, and it takes you lots of years as a child. I mean, a kid of 5, 6, even in his mother tongue, is constantly corrected by adults or at school. No, you don't say it that way. You say it that way, and it's not that. It's not that. So they still make mistakes after 5 or 6 years. And somehow, when we, as an adult, speak
Yeah.
a foreign language, we have the idea that it has to be perfect or nothing at all. And that's just, it's stupid, because that's not how it works, first of all. And yeah, and everyone's forgiving when, for example, a Portuguese person speaks English. We go, "Ah, your English is really great."
Yeah.
Somehow we tend to think that our Portuguese needs to be better before we have the right to start or to try,
Yes.
and that's just not.
yeah,
And
I
it's
think
it's all sorts.
we have the advantage of being able to understand intellectually, so that can help us to remember things, but it's not going to acquire us a language. And the disadvantage is that we don't have the patience, we don't have that understanding, that I just need to let the sound in. I get very frustrated because I want to know what's being said. So this sound coming at me is like, I can't take it, and so I get frustrated and impatient with it. And really the study that children are doing, because they are studying, everything.
Yeah.
They're studying everything. They're just not doing it academically. They're not in a school, but they're just observing and learning and practicing. And that's, that's studying. It's just not the way we understand it in school. So putting it in that perspective, 2 years to study to get to a point to have, sort of functional communication, is a very reasonable goal.
It is.
Yeah.
And of course, in your case, if you intensify that, then you get it faster.
Yeah. And
you can bring those adult skills to it. Yeah.
For sure. The man you see on your screen here, James, who is our mindful migration man every Monday. I think you learn. I've seen how you have the joy of learning Portuguese, and it's like you've got surrogate Portuguese parents, James. You know how you get coached by is it Antonio mainly?
Antonio,
says,
Nuno, João, Luisa, Sidonio, all of them will provide me with feedback. Yes, I've invited them to. I've said, please always correct me. I will not be offended.
And I think it's a joy for them. I think they really appreciate you for saying that. And I think I've seen how you enjoy being corrected, because it is not a criticism, but a part of your appreciation and evolution as a Portuguese speaker.
One of my highest moments last week was I said something to somebody in the comments about Portuguese as I understood it. And Antonio came in with a comment, James is correct. And I just like, yes! Celebration.
Screenshot time. Look at this, Gene said, I knew something. And thank you everybody for your wonderful comments here that Anna has sparked off this morning. Thanks for being here to do that, Anna. I knew somebody whose kid took a long time to speak. And that's interesting, isn't it? Parents get really worried when their children don't speak. Is there something wrong? Yeah. Do I need to take them to a speech therapist? I knew somebody whose kid took a long time to speak. They were starting to wonder if something was wrong. Then one day he just came out with, Mom, can you pass me the potatoes, please? probably not in that voice.
Not in that voice, yeah.
And they all went, oh! but that's a great example, isn't it? We do things when we're ready, and children are very good at doing things when they're ready, and adults are really good at putting pressure on themselves and then kind of talking themselves out of things with their self-criticism and self-judgment.
But it's exactly that pressure that blocks your learning,
isn't it?
It's exactly that blocks your learning. And it's like James said, it's about showing childish curiosity towards almost childish. I'm not saying that James is childish, but I mean,
I am.
But it's just the fact of,
no question.
of going, I do that constantly. How do you say that? How do you say that? Como se diz? And they just, they like to learn. They like to teach you. They like to explain. Right. They want to tell you all about them, but you have to show the curiosity. And just,
So the effective filter. Is that the phrase, the key phrase, the effective filter?
Absolutely, it's very important, and it blocks us all. We all have like those thoughts of not being good enough, and then especially when it gets confirmed, or we think it gets confirmed, once that we try to speak Portuguese or any language, and then the first reaction is come again. So they didn't understand us, so I'm not pronouncing it well, or I'm not doing it well, and then they stop because they get this reaction. Whereas just try again, slow down, be or try to say it differently, or ask the question, how would you say that? It's just showing your interest in, and that's the other thing. It's not only about language, it's about culture.
Yes, well said.
You said, James, that you have like people taking care of you, and that's the effect of it. It's not about the language. The language is just a means to an end, and the end goal is feeling part of the community and having Portuguese friends, or understanding
friends in the sandbox when you're a child.
Well said. Excellent stuff. Right, we're going to find out
the
how
people you're playing with. Yes, just adults now.
It's true. It is, isn't it? It's just a different context, but it's the same feelings, isn't it?
It is.
And by the way, we have a mutual agreement. They say the same to me. If I hear something in their English, please help them. So it's a great exchange. It's wonderful.
It is. It is. We're going to find out how Anna is going to specifically do this in San Martino de Porto, but we've got to look at these lovely comments that are coming in that are resonating with what you're sharing with us this morning. I tried to order a beer in Portuguese, but they replied in English. That happens. Many people, says Darren J, good morning to you, GMP VIP Darren. Many people said they can't speak English, but then we had full conversations. So true. We've all, I think, few of us have been in that situation. Learning languages. Salvation Air Force, you have distinguished yourself this morning with your excellent comments and debut. Unless, of course, you are somebody else who we already know, but it's great to have you here. I find that having the TV on in the background is really useful. I usually start with hola, says Darren. You've got more to say on that, I think. The challenge is to understand what topic is being discussed, presented. And after that, you can effectively tune out and just absorb the dialogue to be mentally filed under sport or whatever. I think that's true. It's good to have a little bit of context, isn't it? And then let it wash over you. What I say to everybody who's afraid of speaking in other languages, same medos. What is that? Is that go ahead without worrying too much about it there? Just get on with it. I noticed, or just do it. That is Nike in Portuguese, possibly. That's quite a big phrase to put on the side of a trainer, though, isn't it? I noticed that people say bon dia or dia instead of hola. Yes, it can be quite truncated, can't it? But yes, well spotted, Darren. You're obviously tuning in and listening. Darren J, starting with hola or bon dia, boa tarde is the best way to get a better answer to your questions. Yes, it is very important.
And it's polite. We learned recently that it's rude not to just start with the business. You always say hello first, right?
And not
say
just,
hello,
hey buddy,
then
hey
ask
buddy,
the question.
Yes, okay. Can you guess? Sorry, I missed the name.
Walk up to a stranger, say, how do I find the bus for? It's like, no, just say, bon dia. How do I find the bus for? It's pretty simple.
So this is Anna. We're talking to Fiona. You're putting the wee one on the school bus. Can you suggest one or two YouTubers to follow for absorbing the language more? So have you got some specific recommendations, Anna?
Well, the thing I always do with my clients is that I really look for topics, because that's also an answer to a previous comment. It
Context,
does help if you know, and also if you've chosen the subject, things that I find interesting might not be interesting to you, or so I really try to look for specific people or topics that are in your interest field. And what that does indeed is, now that you have the context and also the effective filter, which is open because you want to know more about that subject, then you can indeed tune out. And just, I always say that, just don't even try to listen if you don't want to. If you're tired, if you don't feel like it. I have days that I don't really feel like putting in the energy. I just have it on the background, but it just comes in because it's I'm interested in the subject. And for this, so a more general thing that I can absolutely recommend is a very easy one. It's Portuguese with Leo.
Okay.
He's got a
I've
YouTube.
Seen him,
he's got YouTube films. He's got a podcast on all podcast platforms. And I really enjoy listening to him because he's got a beautiful voice. He's a handsome man, that helps. But especially he talks about not only about language features, so he explains like the difference between certain verbs, or but also talks about history, which is history and culture of Portugal, which I like a lot. He has interviews with polyglots, with people who have learned the language, etc. So it's a more general, but it's a really good podcast. What you can do, and that's something that not many people think about doing, if you're listening to a YouTuber or a podcast in a foreign language, what I have done in the beginning is slow it down. You can slow down any film fragment or whatever. You can slow it down. And it really, it changes the voice a little bit, and it's maybe not that, but it gives your brain the time to make the difference between the separate words, to recognize words as words and not like a long train of sounds that you can't distinguish. Yeah, string of sounds.
You have to allow more time, though.
Yeah, so you just
allow
slow
more
down.
time.
Yeah, yeah. But I just did that in the beginning, and only the first 2 months, maybe. So first half speed, and then a bit faster.
That's a great idea. A friend of mine. Yeah, the wonderful lady who looks after alpacas up in the Aveiro region, Lisa. What an incredible experience it is to go out with her and her alpacas. But she was telling me that she used to listen to podcasts, and she was saying they all sound so fast to me. And then the benefit of that, of course, is you can get them all listened to in twice the time, maybe.
Of
But
course,
she
yeah.
but she had got them on the wrong speed setting, which I adjusted for her. But of course, if you've got a half-hour podcast and you're listening to it on a slow setting, then allow more time. You're not going to be able to squeeze, or is it pitch adjusted? I don't know. And now, having said that, but yes, a great tip from Anna there to slow it
Yeah,
down. And the wonderful podcast technology allows us to do that. That's wonderful.
of
And if you're
course,
watching Portuguese with Leo, do have the sound up. It's not good enough just to look at a handsome man with a nice voice. You've got to actually hear it as well. He is saying something as well.
yeah. And
If that-
it's worth listening. He's worth listening to. It's
right.
really it's a really nice way to start.
All right, volume
Yeah,
up. I find children's books and shows work for me. That's a great tip as well, isn't it? That's about the
yeah.
level I am at. We all are, Gene, aren't we? That's a really.
Bing on YouTube.
You're a Bing fan. Okay, very good.
Hola,
Anna,
Bing.
this is James's favourite. Anna is right. That's some slack too. Baby isn't worried about getting housing or her immigration status or cooking dinner. She's nothing
Indeed.
else to do but learn the language.
Yes.
Salvation Air Force. You can force shop assistants to teach you their language. Go into a shop. I want trousers, big, small, red, blue. No, sorry, I meant shirt. Long sleeve, no collar. How about shoes? I think you might also get thrown out of the shop, but yes, I think that will get people coming to your assistance. That's a good tip. People think that going to a language school for a couple of hours a day is enough. You need. Well, it feels like you're doing something, and we're not criticizing language courses or schools, but
Indeed. Yeah, it's important. It's always better than doing nothing at all, of course. And it does help. Language courses can help, absolutely. And some people just need, because there's also the thing, I don't need to be motivated to, you know, I am motivated. It's my thing. Languages are my thing. And for some people, they just need to have to be there at 7 o'clock on a Monday night just to make sure that they do something for, the
yeah,
language.
definitely like
So
going to the gym. Like it's the equivalent
yeah,
of going
it's
to the
like,
gym, isn't it?
yeah. So
Exactly.
it
Like
can be.
working out. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying you shouldn't take any language courses, but I am saying that if it would help you a lot if you would indeed, as Moaz says, like the TV, songs, YouTube, podcasts, any input is input, and it can be as small as just, I don't know, like Instagram. They're just on my feed now. And the good thing about all those platforms is that the algorithm, once you have chosen one or two, the algorithm will give you new suggestions in that language. So now my Instagram is full of Portuguese people, not because I've looked for them, all of them. I've looked two or three, and now I've got new suggestions coming into my feed about subjects that I like and in Portuguese. So that really helps. And it's just those, stories are 30 seconds long.
Bite
It's that
size.
small, but it
Very good.
really, yeah, you just do it, while, I
Great.
don't know,
And
you've got
I'm finding
5
a great
minutes.
way to. Oops, I'm sorry. A great way to integrate this, as you've been saying, is getting out, being with Portuguese people, and then integrating watching and listening.
Yeah,
And as you said, the context, if you know they're talking about, buying bread, then you have that context, and you watch the body language, you listen to the words, and
absolutely.
most of the words you're going to miss. But I've actually had Louisa ask me, did you know what they were saying? I said, no, I don't know what they're saying, but I know what they were talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well
They
said.
were talking about they wanted to make a copy on the copy machine. She said it was in the back room. They could do it on the computer, and then they could come pick it up. She said, wow, that was really good. I said, I understood about 4 words, but
Yeah.
the communication, the listening and the watching, I understood what had been communicated. And that's so
yeah,
important. Get out with people and watch and listen.
I've got a question. Housekeeping here. It's 2 minutes past 10. Are you okay
yes.
for about 5 or 10 minutes more, Anna, or should you have started a
Oh,
language lesson with somebody
no,
about?
no, I've blocked my agenda for this
Well
one.
done. Okay, so I think this is so interesting. Thank you very much, James. Are you okay too for a little bit longer?
Absolutely, yes.
Excellent stuff. And when learning in this way, of course, you're learning colloquial Portuguese often, aren't you? And it's the language that people are speaking every day. And I
Yeah,
would argue that if you want to learn grammar, but adding grammar to that later is probably easier than sitting in a classroom learning cold, hard grammatical facts, right?
That's
It's
what
the
we did
same
in
as a
our
kid.
language acquisition.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's
You
the
learn.
same as children. We've
Yeah.
all had grammar lessons in our mother tongue,
Yeah.
but later on, not straight away. It's not the first. It's not the
That's
priority.
building block is a
Think of it
colloquial.
like music. We listen to and learn music long before we learn to notate it and read it.
Can
We
you
can sing
imagine?
a song by hearing it and repeating it. We don't have to
Mm.
study music to sing. We just have to hear and listen and copy.
Can you imagine?
And then if we want to understand what's going on, then we learn the academic piece of, oh, here's what's happening. That's
What a
grammar.
world
That's
it
what
would be,
grammar
Jim,
is.
if it was the other way around and all children were brought up having to learn music theory before they could hear a song. What a cruel
There'd be no
world.
music.
That would be
Yes,
really
there'd be
cruel.
no music.
Yeah.
I found my ear to be more attuned by listening
And the
to
evolution of it, the evolution of language and music was they all came first. And we figured out, we said, all right, we want to know what's going on. How do we break this down? But if we had done that
now we
first,
need the
we wouldn't be
rules.
speaking
Yeah.
or playing
Well
music.
said.
We just wouldn't be
Yes,
doing it.
Yes, indeed.
True.
This is a really good idea, Bob, because whilst some of us are snoozing on the sofa in the afternoon, we can actually tell our partners and people who are bothered by such behaviour that we're actually learning Portuguese, which is perhaps what Bob does. No additional vocabulary, but hearing more sounds. Yes, could everyone be quiet? I just need to tune into some Portuguese for 10 minutes. Okay.
Well, this theory has been tested, and it was so the theory of that. I think it was in the 80s. People had the great idea that you could just put on like a recording during the night, and that you would be able to speak the language, or that you would learn the language. It sounds ridiculous. It's not, in the sense that indeed that's because your brain picks up so much more unconsciously than you would think. And it's not, it's as I said, it's language, it's rhythm, it's intonation, etc., but also words. We make links without realizing that we are making links. It happens to me a lot. I start speaking, start a conversation, and then I utter words that I didn't know I had, or something.
That's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
So it's because I have the unconscious, I have something going on in my mind without realizing that I'm really studying.
I find that as well.
You're not analyzing it when you're sleeping. It's just coming in, very much like a child again. You're just listening. You're not going, oh, how do you say that? Or, breaking it down. I could never do that. You don't have any of that mental commentary. Just
But don't you find this?
If
you listen to Earth, Wind and Fire on repeat, suddenly you can sing like Philip Bailey. All of it, it just comes out. It's amazing.
Never happened to me, but yeah.
Sounds like it to me. And here's a really good way of Portuguese Airbnb owners reframing their experience. If you end up in one of those Airbnbs and it's above a cafe that doesn't shut until 4 a.m, that you can say, look, I didn't sleep very well, but my Portuguese has really improved because those people outside the window are speaking Portuguese until 4 a.m. There you go. Put that on your ad.
Suddenly I know how to order every kind of coffee I can.
I do need to make a comment on that because I don't want people losing their sleep over this. So the thing is, I wouldn't recommend doing it at night. Yeah, because that theory was in the 80s and it didn't come through because exactly you're not, your sleep at night has a different function. It doesn't have the function of learning, and you're not going to get the same quality of sleep when you have a Portuguese man or woman in your ear whispering. So it's not you can doze off on the sofa with a podcast. Yes, do that, absolutely, but don't do it at night because your brain at that moment needs to like process everything you've learned and seen that day, and it's not a good idea to
thank you
put
for that
new information into
you
your
have
brain.
saved a lot of heartache for
yeah
people.
yeah
I still see that you
it's maintenance time when you're asleep at night. time for the body to maintain,
Of
tune
course,
up
yeah, yeah.
oil
But
and do
there
all
is,
that.
yeah, but there is some sense in the idea that you just unconsciously learn a language. So that's absolutely
Hmm.
true. Yeah.
Okay, I
Hmm.
still
Yeah.
say you should get a dog and speak to people on the street whilst walking the dog. And on that
It
note,
helps.
Salvation Air Force says you don't actually need a dog. You can just kick off with, "Can you clean that up, please?" I do meditation YouTube videos in French to help me go to sleep and learning the language. Yes, European
Yeah.
Portuguese meditation videos. Calma,
Yeah.
tranquilo.
Yeah.
Yes,
Very
very good.
powerful.
I was fortunate enough to have learned high school English by the age of 5. Yes, you just soaked it up, Portuglish. But you probably had a nanny, Lord Gilchrist, as well, teaching
Mhm.
you, and a private tutor. Translate that phrase. But I absolutely agree. I had to DeepL translate that phrase from João F there, but I absolutely agree. Yes, just do it in Portuguese, as João said there. I knew somebody whose kid. Oh, yes. Okay. We did that one, didn't we? But,
Yeah.
this is what Anna was saying. Suddenly words will come out that you didn't know you'd learned, possibly,
Yeah.
as well. What a lovely moment that would be. What do you say to this, Anna? My problem is that I'm a quitter. I study Portuguese for a month, then I stop for months, then go back to it for another month. That sort of
Yeah.
self-talk's not helpful, is it?
No, no, it's not helpful. And you're not a quitter. You just haven't found the way that works for you. That's it. If you feel if you feel like you have to do, we people, we don't like to have to do things. We don't. It's not in our. It's not. It's against our nature, and that's where stress comes from. When we have the feeling that we have to too much.
Yes.
Um, if you find something that you enjoy, then you will not have the feeling of having to do it, and you will continue doing it
Well said.
even after. Yeah. So it means that you haven't found the way that works for you.
Yes.
And
And you
simply
must go on.
reframing it from I have
Mm,
to why
yeah.
am I doing this in the first place, and then choose to do it. There's freedom in it because now I no longer have to. I'm choosing to do it. That's why choice is so
Mm,
powerful. I
yeah.
choose to study today. I choose to listen to Portuguese. I choose to be interested in what I'm learning. And when I get bored, I'll turn it off and do something else. But I
But
don't have to
the
do
thing is,
this. I'm not being
yeah,
required to.
the thing is also that probably he or she, I don't know, hasn't felt like the results of being
Yes.
in that school and then coming out. And if you don't feel like this is, wow, and that feeling is really important. It's motivating. It's really important. I love it when people, I'm introduced to Portuguese by Portuguese, and they just go, "That's the one that speaks Portuguese." That's why, that's it. It makes you happy. It makes you happy because you feel like this
Yes.
is having my the thing that I'm doing is really this is the result. And if you don't have that feeling and you just go, oh, another night at that school and then learning about this and that, and it's not, you don't feel like you're doing a favor to yourself because that's the way it should feel. It should feel like
Absolutely.
an
And the
yeah,
progress can be so incremental that you don't realize it. I say to my clients all
yeah,
the time, you can't watch your children grow. You look at a
Yeah.
photo of them 6 months ago and go, oh my goodness. And we don't
what's
Yes.
see that
happening?
in ourselves.
Yeah,
We learn at little
yeah,
tiny increments. But if you measure where you're at now from where you started, you're miles ahead. So that
mm,
can, if you can avoid the
yeah,
discouragement of quitting and look at where am I now to where I was when I started, then there's
yeah.
encouragement in that. At least it
There
worked for
you go.
me in that.
Moaz knows the answer. Talking about Leo here. You're not a quitter. You just need to find more handsome men doing Portuguese meditation, possibly.
But it
Exactly.
does help.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So yeah, I mean, it's true though, isn't it? You will learn more doing it in a way that's enjoyable. And we've got
It,
wonderful Philomena here who joins us once a month for Philomena Friday. Was here last Friday, and it's fun learning Portuguese with Philomena. That's why people love you so much, Philomena, as well. So you find ways that you enjoy. I mean, there are a few of us, I suppose, who do like being hard and harsh on ourselves, and they
mm,
maybe get a joy out of that. So it's a strange kind of masochistic learning
yeah,
method. But generally speaking, we learn more, don't we, when we're open and light and
absolutely.
receptive than we do
Yeah,
when we're sat in it. I mean, you know what school's like, everybody. And we we tended not to soak too much up in those environments.
Children learn
yeah,
when they play. They learn
Exactly.
best when they're
absolutely.
playing.
And
So
we need to do the same.
Talking of which, days in the bay. It's 12 minutes past 10. Come on, guys. We need to get you back, Anna, I think.
Talking too much.
No, not at all. We just, the clock is beating us this morning.
Okay.
I love talking about language.
So what can people expect if they come and join you? It's like days in the bay. And as James was saying, this is play in the bay, right? Have a playful time learning the language.
Yeah, that's the idea. The idea is it's not only about the language, it's also, it's culture, because it's really important. As I said, language is only a means to an end. It's not the end goal. But yes, we would look into the ways of learning that language. We would go straight away into the real world, meeting Portuguese people, talking about differences, talking about things that we think about each other. What do the Portuguese think of expats? What do they expect? What are their fears and their and then the other way around, of course. We would look, and we would also do it while having fun. It's very important to enjoy those days. So we would, for example, learn to cook Portuguese dishes together with Portuguese people, learn how you say those things, and we would try to do that in Portuguese as much as possible. Go into shops, talk to the locals, listen to Portuguese music, learn about their history also, because it's really important. Portuguese are really proud of their history, and many things. The way that they think and act is absolutely linked to their history. So it might be very interesting also for the expats to know a bit more about that. And the idea is that at the end of that day, I'm hoping that if this kicks off, we can do like a full immersion midweek from Monday to Friday somewhere.
Oh my goodness. Great.
Yes, I would love. I would love. It's very, very ambitious, but I would love to do that, because then we would really be able to, at the end of that week, say, "Listen, I'm armed now. I know how to do it." And be ready to go into the in the real world in Portugal, and have the feeling of being part of the community instead of
How about that? As
standing outside of it. Yeah.
For those of you watching this who are coming to Portugal, I imagine people are thinking, yeah, I'd factor that in. That'll be part of a scouting trip, or even when I first get to Portugal, a few days in the bay with Anna, and let's do that. If you want to learn Portuguese, listen to Portuguese every day. Our esteemed and dear Professor Pascal there speaking to us. Absolutely right, Philomena. Looking forward to talking to you again soon. Catch that show on Catch Up on our YouTube channel from last Friday. Anna, you're being asked to come back, and I would reiterate this myself, and certainly support this sentiment from Sue's listening in Vancouver this morning. You're a welcome addition. Hope you come back. Will you come back and join us again?
Yes, I'd love to. Yeah, love to.
Sorry to put you on the spot like that, but you've said it now, so we will.
Yeah.
No, I hated it. I hated it.
No.
So yes,
I enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for being here this morning, James. Before we go, and I think we'll do a few dad jokes, because dad jokes, humor, Portuguese people, great sense of humor. That's another great way of learning, is it not? We'll do a few dad jokes which are universal. James, any more reflections from you as the mainstay of Mindful Migration Monday?
I just want to say what a joy it's been being here today, sharing the screen with Anna. I love any conversation I can have around language, and learning the language of Portuguese is always fun for me. So thank you for being here.
Oh,
I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Okay, so those dad jokes then. Let's see if these work in Belgian, in American, in English, and Portuguese. I really don't mind getting older, but my body is taking it badly. That's a kind of Coach Turner tip, really, isn't it? That's not funny.
That's supposed to be a dad joke.
If my kids knew there was a light in the oven, they'd leave that one on too. That translates across the world, I'm sure. I thought I won the argument with my wife. Going back to those body cams, and apparently there was a Black Mirror episode of that kind. I thought I won the argument with my wife as to how to arrange the dining room furniture, but when I got home, the tables were turned. Ooh. No, not that one. That one. Yes. James, you had one for us as well, didn't you? You had a nice
Another visual one. Yes.
Go on. So you don't have to send me a message later on saying you didn't show my dad joke. What is this? Go on, James. You can do this.
I still remember what my grandfather said the night before he kicked the bucket. What was it, sir? He said, "How far do you think I can kick this bucket?"
Yikes. Okay, we should end there, really. This episode is kicking the bucket now, but we'll be back tomorrow. Our Portugal Business Club kicks off tomorrow night at 9:00 as well. Migration Tuesday has moved from Tuesday to Thursday this week. Bear that in mind for your diaries. James, thank you so much for being here. See you again next
My pleasure always. Yes.
Anna, perhaps we can invite you to a monthly residency. You've been amazing this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right. And all those wonderful videos and pictures that were sent in that we simply haven't got time for because it's now 18 minutes past 10. We'll carry those over for the rest of the week. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you, James. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, everybody who tuned in this morning. And welcome to the Salvation Air Force. What a great debut. We hope to see you again tomorrow and all the other new names. Bye for now. Ciao, ciao. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.